Under disclosure of pecuniary interest, I have none before me at this time. If at some point throughout the meeting you feel you have a pecuniary interest, please let us know. Under deputations, petitions, and public meetings, we have none. And unfinished business, on the back of this page, folks, there's several items there. Any questions or comments on those items? Councillor Smith?
I'm just wondering if, Your Worship, if we can, maybe the CAO can look at those and cross off or update, if there's updates on these, because some of the dates are I know things have already been done, and others, maybe just a status on the last time something happened. But I know why some are there, like the Dardanella's been on there since August, maybe an update, if there's some of these on here that could have what's happened with the ones that haven't, that are, you know, older than 3 months old or something.
All right. Mr. CAO, you can maybe bring an update on that in the future. Thank you, Councillor. Under new business, we have property management services, item number A. Mr. CAO.
Thank you, Worship. Members of Council, in your agenda package is a report that I've done on property management services for the beachfront properties. As members of Council know, we have a contract with National Recovery Management, Inc. It's a one-year contract with the option to renew for 2 more one-year terms. At the end of the first year of this contract, there was an opportunity to do a review of the services provided, and I've done that review, and the recommendation is that we move property management services in-house. I've outlined 10 advantages, I think, to that option. The 2 other options were to renew for another 1-year term, and the second option was to go back out to an RFP and see what we would get with requests for proposals for property management services. The last time we went with an RFP, which was a year ago, National Recovery Management was the low bid, and I would think that we may have received a similar outcome if we went out again. So I'm not suggesting that we go out again, and it's not being recommended that we continue our relationship with our current property management company. I've outlined some estimated costs with respect to what it's costing the municipality in terms of to date. I can say that we just received another invoice from our property manager, so we're up around $117,000 for this year. So I think we could do it. I think we can do it better in-house, and I think there's an opportunity now to move it in-house and transfer some of that expertise in-house. So recommendation is that as soon as we can facilitate that process to assign it to a particular staff person and allow for some transition, that we should proceed with transferring these responsibilities in-house. I've advised the property manager of my recommendation, and he has indicated that he's prepared to work with us during this transition period. He understands the rationale behind what's being recommended, and subject to committee and council making a decision, he's prepared to work with us. So with that, I'll answer any questions in terms of council.
Thank you, George. Deputy Mayor Byfolchi.
Thank you. For obvious reasons, you haven't put in here which staff would be looking after this. I think that's an important piece to it for me to move forward. So I have no problem supporting this tonight, but between now and council, I'd like to have an understanding as to how you think that's going to be handled and who's going to be doing it. Okay.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Bray.
Well, I guess just my only concern would be that if we take existing staff and we move them over to the beach, which is typically a busy time, I don't know that staff aren't busy, so I'm seeing that there's probably a new position there, whether it's a part-time position or a seasonal position or something, and I just wondered, maybe when we find out who the staff will be, that'll indicate kind of where that would be. So yeah, I think there's something missing still.
Some more information.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. I appreciate that there's pieces missing here. This is more the concept. There's another report that's going to be coming forward dealing with some of these issues, all wrapped into one. It's related to the KPMG, the confidential report, and some of the recommendations that were within that. And I'm looking at incorporating some of that with this, with recommendations about particular staff. So I recognize that there's a piece missing.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? All right. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Eagle. Resolved that Committee of the Whole recommends to Council that approve transferring the provision of property management services for the beachfront properties in-house using town staff effective the new year after the appropriate staff have been assigned and appropriate notice has been provided to the current property manager contractor. Any other questions or comments? Madam Deputy Clerk, call the vote, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. With the motion having been read, I will ask the members of committee to vote with an in favor or opposed. Councillor Blanchet?
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Byfolchi?
In favor?
Councillor Bray?
In favor?
Councillor Ego?
In favor.
Councillor Smith?
In favor.
Councillor Stockwell?
Favor.
Your Worship.
In favor.
The vote is 7 in favor, 0 opposed. The motion is carried.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Clerk. Moving on to item number 5B, the KPMG Efficiency Review Recommendations. George, this is yours as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our HR coordinator is here. I'm going to ask Denise to speak to this.
Good evening, Denise. Welcome.
Good evening, thank you. So in follow-up to the KPMG report regarding the increased staffing in HR, there has been a definite significant increase in the tasks that fall within HR. I can say over my time here with recruitment, investigations, benefits, compensation, etc., there's definitely an increase year by year. But just recently, the treasurer had informed me that there is going to be a change to our payroll system. I currently am benefiting from the help of the benefits, the payroll and benefits clerk, and I have her on a 0.4 of a full-time equivalent. That amount by a minimum will increase to about a 0.6, possibly more. So for that reason, I provided some options of what we can consider for increase in staffing. But I think at this time, until we implement the new system and then fully realize the impact on that person's extra time, I think it would be prudent to wait and observe over 2017. So that would be my recommendation.
Well, I appreciate you coming forward with that, Denise. That's for sure, because I'm sure it was on most, if not all, of our minds. So questions or comments? All right, seeing none. Moved by Councillor Ego, seconded by Councillor Smith. Resolved that Committee of the Whole recommends to Council that it receive this report pertaining to the KPMG Efficiency Review recommendations, that consideration be given to increasing staff in Human Resources HR. Madam Deputy Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. With the motion having been read, I will ask the members of committee to vote with an in favor or opposed. Councillor Blanchet?
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Byfolchi?
In favor?
Councillor Bray?
In favor?
Councillor Ego?
In favor?
Councillor Smith?
In favor.
Councillor Stockwell?
Favor.
Mayor Smith?
In favor.
The vote is 7 in favor, 0 opposed. The motion is carried.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Clerk. Moving on to item number 5C, Water and Wastewater Rates 2016 Study Update. Madam Treasurer, welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, members of council. So over the last couple of weeks, what I've been working on is updating our water and wastewater rate study. This is something we do on an annual basis. For those of you that are new, we started this back in 2009 with Watson and Associates once we moved to metered billing. And since about the 2012 time period, staff have been annually updating the study on their own. So what I'm requesting for the 2017 rates is an increase of 2% over 2016, which would mean about $8.34 for the average residential home in terms of an increase. Given the rate is increasing, it's still very important to note that Wasaga Beach still continues to be the lowest in terms of water rates across the county. So I did include a chart at the very back of the report to show you where we do stand. So on average, the town's billing is about $500 per year. And you can, in comparison to some of the very higher ones, some are even up over $1,500 per year. So we're still well within the range. Again, a lot of that has to do with the fact that we have very young infrastructure and we've started to put away very early. That's not to say we're putting away the absolute optimal amount, of course, but we're certainly in better condition than most municipalities, and in terms of across Ontario, all municipalities are under the same sort of conditions that we are as well. We have done a great job over the last 10 years or so to make sure that those amounts that are being put away are continuing to increase, and adding this 2% increase recovers that portion and also allows us to absorb the inflationary costs that are necessary to continue with the water system. I can walk you just through the study process just really quickly. Essentially what it starts with is the number of users and how much water we anticipate that users will use going forward. We look at historical facts, we look at the information that Aqua provides us, we look at the type of demographics that we have, and try and predict. Of course, we're not perfect, but we certainly have been getting fairly close. Try and predict what type of usage each homeowner will use. And on average, according to the study that I've just recently updated, it's about 162 cubic meters of water per household. Now, again, that's on average, so we certainly have some that are using much more than that, and some that may in fact use less. But it is a fairly low average if you consider the fact that 162 cubic meters of water is really not that much water if you break it down by month. So the conservation efforts are still continuing, which is very good, and that's part of the province's mandate, and we are following those as well. So that's a good thing. So metered billing has done what the province has expected it to do, and certainly what the town would have expected it to do. So it starts with the users. We talk about how much water is going to be used, and then we take a look at the base rates. Because our town is a seasonal location, and it's very difficult to predict usage because we may have, of the 4,000 households that are seasonal, we don't know when they're coming or when they're going and how long they're going to stay. So we do have a base rate that is included in our water rates. And I believe that to be a very solid the best practice in terms of billing out our water, so that we can ensure that we at least cover those operational costs. So we take a look at the types of users we have. Of course, we are largely residential, so 3/4 inch is by far the greatest amount of meter size that we have. And then we take a look at what all the expenses are in order to run the system. So that includes salaries for the people that work in Town Hall, at Public Works, the Ontario Clean Water Agency operating and maintenance, their capital plan. And this year we had it was presented at Public Works Committee. Aqua came in and provided us with a 10-year capital plan, and that's all been incorporated in this as well. So it's a really good update, I think, and it was very helpful to have Aqua come and do that for us. So certainly that helped this year. And that includes hydro, gas, utilities, all these types of things. All the expenses are included. So that's the next part that we look at. And finally, what we look at is what the age of the system is and when the expectation is of that recovery. So we use the 10-year plan that Aqua brought forward to us, but we also have to look, of course, they're looking at facilities, pumping stations, the treatment centers, those types of things. We also need to look at the pipes under the ground, the lateral services, all of those funny little things that come along with our water system. So that's all been incorporated as well. And when all is said and done, the result was that a 2% increase would help the system continue to be financially sustainable into the future. Again, it does incorporate the 10-year plan. And based on this information, at this time and what we know the plan is financially sustainable into 25 years into the future, which is, I think, very good. It's exactly what the province is hoping all municipalities would do, so we're very fortunate that we're able to provide low increases, but still ensure that we are managing the system as best as possible at this point.
Excellent, thank you, Monica. Any questions, comments for our treasurer? Seeing none, moved by Councillor Stockwell, seconded by Deputy Mayor Byfolchi. Resolved, the Committee of the Whole recommends to Council that it implement a 2% increase to water, wastewater base and consumption rates as proposed in Schedule A of this report effective January 1st, 2017, with the appropriate bylaw to be considered by Council on December 20th, 2016. Madam Deputy Clerk.
With the motion having been read, Your Worship, I'll ask the members of committee to vote with an in favor or opposed. Councillor Boulanger?
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Byfolchi?
In favor.
Councillor Bray?
In favor.
Councillor Ego?
In favor.
Councillor Smith?
In favor.
Councillor Stockwell?
Favor.
Mayor Smith?
In favor.
The vote is 7 in favor, 0 opposed. The motion is carried.
Thank you. All right, and moving on to item number 5D, 2017 operational and capital budget. Madam Treasurer.
Thank you, Your Worship. So you have in front of you today what we are looking at is draft 3 of the 2017 operational and capital budget. The last time we met, we were at a 1.72% increase, which equated to about $41.39 for the average assessed home. After the last meeting, the discussions went about the items that we had included and some of the items that were still not included into the plan. And the one item that staff walked away with was that the communication specialist should be included beginning January 1 for 2017. So we took a look at how we could incorporate this, and originally the discussion was that was about a 0.5% in terms of tax rate increase, which would bring us up to 2.2. What members of council requested us to do was go back and take a look and see where else we could make some savings and do some adjustments to try and figure out how we can incorporate it, at least to not take all of that taxation impact in for 2017. So we have done that. Overall, there were a few items that we have reduced, and one of the most significant is the firefighter overtime. So when the hiring of the 6 firefighters occurred in June or May of this year, some of the trade-off of that was that the overtime should certainly decrease, and we have seen some decrease of that over this year. Not as significant as we hope that 2017 will be, since they were sort of phased in, and the timing of that doesn't necessarily provide for the full savings, but we certainly thought that it was an area that we could continue to see some savings with. So we have reduced the overtime for the firefighters by $35,000 for 2017. So that took up a big chunk of the 0.5% that the communication specialist added. We also took a look at just the administration department, so administration, council, IT, treasury, and we just took a look at sort of the miscellaneous in terms of what was spent before, where we're at now, the telephone expenses. We did have a reduction in our cell phone plan that our IT person has just put through. We made sure that we were, in terms of the office supplies, we had just started the new copier agreement. We made sure those things were applied appropriately and that we were being conservative, but not ensuring that we are appreciating all of the savings that were incorporated with those plans. So there were other items as well. We did also do a staffing rate decrease due to an upcoming retirement. So that also brought about $13,000 back out of the 2017 budget. So overall, we previously were at the 1.72, where we ended up today is at 1.94%. So it's about 0.22% increase over the previous one, which results in $44.96 for the average assessed home per year in comparison to the $41.39. So about $3 difference from last week to this week. We do continue to make predictions on what that means for including the county and the education tax rates. So overall, the prediction is that about for the average assessed home at $317,000, we'd be moving to 2017 with an increase of about $45 per year. So we also had a little conversation about reserves last meeting to talk about where we would end up at the end of 2017 in terms of the total reserve spending versus what we were putting in. Now I want you to keep in mind that the beachfront property management that's included here at the 927 includes the debenture payments and all the capital items, and there's not very many capital items in 2017. And that the plan, our financial plan that we brought forward as an update a couple of weeks ago, says that that amount will be repaid at the time of redevelopment or however we proceed with the beachfront. So although it is an impact in 2017 and it has been in 2016, in the future the expectation is that that would be repaid. So that was always, that's part of the financing plan, and I just want to be clear that it's not just a complete a pull of the 927. There is the plan that at some point that would be repaid. So the net amount in terms of how we'll impact reserves for 2017 is a reduction of about $716,000. Again, that includes the $927,000 for the beachfront property management, which will be repaid at some point. This includes a contribution to the capital replacement reserve of $2.2 million, which was part of the asset management plan that we talked about a few weeks back as well. It also includes funding that we discussed for the downtown master plan, developer agreement incentives, and the development corporation. $225,000 has also been slated for the Emerald Ash Borer, the second phase of the, I don't want to say the Save the Tree, I can't think of the campaign, but essentially the plan to help preserve those trees or remove them where they need to be, and so that is being funded in 2017 as well. So that's just another item that we've included here. And on top of that, $784,000 worth of capital projects is being funded through reserves, which is not unlike any other year. In general, when it comes to equipment, we try to fund them 50% through reserves and 50% through taxation, so that we eliminate the need to, when we replace a snowplow that's $400,000, it's much more palatable if we can raise some of the money out of reserves as well. So, but at the end of the day, for 2017, it does mean a decrease of the overall reserves at $716,000. That being said, the town is still in a very healthy position. I think we talked about not too long ago the provincial averages, and we were at 100% of the provincial average in 2000, or sorry, let me rephrase that. We were at 100% in comparison to the provincial average of around 30 to 40% in terms of operating expenditures and reserves. So the province comes forward and says, here's what we think, you know, is a high-risk area or a low-risk area. Based on their calculations or on the calculation that they provide to us, we have in our reserves 100% of what the operating expenditures would be required to run the town for a year. Again, that being said, there are issues with that calculation because they do include water and wastewater, which is completely separate and can't really be used. And it also includes our investment in our hydro at $3.5 million. So there's things that aren't perfect in that calculation, but certainly we are well above the provincial average, much less the remaining municipalities in Simcoe County. So I think that we have presented a good budget. I think that the 1.94%, although I would like to build the base for 2018, understand that there is affordability issues and there are things we need to think about there as well. But I do think that staff have done their best and went back and did look where we could and found things to offset the 93 for the communication specialist. And I think a $44 increase in taxes is not out of the ordinary when you consider the fact that hydro, gas, insurance, wages, all those things that come up are being included here as well. So.
Thank you very much, Monica. Questions or comments? Councillor Belanger?
Yes, Monica, I have one question. Under some of the additional savings that found, you indicated a reduction to the food bank grant, and obviously we have a considerable need in our town for the food bank, so I just wanted clarification on the amount that was reduced.
Sure. So if I may, through your worship, so we had budgeted the food bank grant at $24,000 2 years ago, so for the 2015 budget. The way that the grants work is it's sent out to members of council and everybody votes on the amount that they would like to see given to that particular organization, and then the average is provided. So over the last couple of years, that amount has been just in the neighborhood of 11,000, 12,000. I'm sorry, I don't want to grab the exact number. It's been in that neighborhood. It's between 11 and 12,000. So in the 2017 budget, that budgeted amount was still at 24. We brought it down to 20. We did not bring it right down to the bottom amount, just in case there was any movement for 2017. But certainly I think it was a fair adjustment.
Yeah, it was 11,000 last year, so that's excellent. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, I think you've done an excellent job, Monica, and there's no doubt it didn't happen without a lot of hard work and searching through a lot of numbers, so kudos to the staff, great job. Councillor Smith?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to make something so that it would be recorded in the minutes. I noticed Jenny Leggett isn't here, but I do want to apologize for my irresponsible comments towards her last meeting, and I have apologized in person, which she's accepted, but I would like it recorded that I am sorry for the way that my comments came out.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I'm sure Jenny will be glad to hear that. I'll read this question. Moved by Councillor Belanger, seconded by Councillor Eagle. Resolved that Committee of the Whole as Budget Committee receives the 2017 Operational and Capital Budget Draft Number 3. Madam Deputy Clerk, call the question, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. With the motion having been read, I will ask the members of the committee to vote with an in favor or opposed. Councillor Belanger?
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Byfolchi?
In favor?
Councillor Bray?
In favor?
Councillor Eagle?
In favor.
Councillor Smith?
In favor.
Councillor Stockwell?
Favor.
Mayor Smith?
In favor.
The vote is 7 in favor, 0 opposed. The motion is carried.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Clerk. Item number 6, items for future meetings and new items. We have none at this point. Item number 7, we have no closed session today, and this meeting is adjourned.